Hey, good morning, everybody. We are recording at this time, and we're going to be doing Amendments 8 and 9. And then in the Zoom meeting today, and we're going to be doing the 10th Amendment. So you'll need to tune in to our Zoom today in order to be a part of understanding the 10th Amendment. First thing we're going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. And when I share the screen, we are going to look at, if I can get to it here for a second. There it is. We're going to look at the 8th Amendment first. And it's pretty simple. It's cut and dry, and it'll be easy for us to understand. So, the Amendment 8, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. So there's three basic parts here. No excessive bail, no excessive fines, and no cruel or unusual punishment. So let's look at excessive bail. Bail is when you post a fee for being released from jail prior to your trial. And this gives you some freedoms based on what the bail assessment is, how much it is, and where you're allowed to go. With bail, it can be anywhere from $1,000 up to millions. Sometimes bail is not even allowed if you did a really heinous crime or a threat to leave. The bail that you do pay, say it's a $10,000 bail that you have to show up in court in 3 weeks, but you're allowed to stay home for 3 weeks until that time. If you fail to appear in court, that $10,000 is now in neglect, and so you will not get your $10,000 back, and the bail bondsman or the person perhaps that you borrowed the money from will come after you. They will arrest you, and then you will not be allowed out on bail. So bail is something that allows a person their freedom while they are being accused of a crime before a trial. No excessive fines. Let's say you get a ticket for running a red light. They can't do $10 million. It has to be within a reasonable amount for a fine to be assessed by our government when it comes to federal laws and whatnot. So we cannot have excessive fines when we are found guilty of a crime or doing something that is inappropriate and it comes with a fine. And the last is no cruel or unusual punishment. This one goes directly to what King George III in Parliament was doing, in that they would arrest somebody for a crime or not a crime, and they'd throw them in jail for the rest of their lives, or they'd hang them, or they'd quarter them, or tar them. They'll do all sorts of things. And so our government, when it was created, decided that it was important that there wouldn't be any cruel or unusual punishment for the crime. So in other words, the crime or the time needs to fit the crime. So if you kill someone, there is 25, 30 years plus. If you take a Snickers bar, it's just maybe an infraction. Or steal a car, you might be put away for a few years, but it's not going to be a life sentence. And then the punishment or cruelness to it would also come into play when we no longer hang people. Lethal injection and things like that are being even under question about whether it's cruel and unusual in the way that somebody is put to death, things like that. So it's important to know these three things. There's no excessive bail, no excessive fines, and no cruel or unusual punishment. If we were in class, we'd go in much more detail with these things, but that's basically what you need to know, that you do have rights even if you are found guilty. You have rights of what they can do to you. Okay? Let's move on to the 9th Amendment. The 9th Amendment is not referred to very often, but it's extremely important. So let's read it. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So in other words, certain rights that are not mentioned in the Constitution shall not be taken away. It does not need to mention every single thing we are allowed or have a right to do in this country. For example, if after I record this, I decide I want to go on a walk, I can go on a walk. It doesn't need to be mentioned in the Constitution that it's my right to do so. To choose from a menu, to do all sorts. There's hundreds of thousands of things that we have rights to do that aren't mentioned in the Constitution. And just because they're not mentioned in the Constitution doesn't mean that they aren't our rights, according to the 9th Amendment. So this one is super important to all of us And it's one of those that is just understood, that we have these rights, and they shouldn't be infringed just because they're not mentioned somewhere. They mentioned several of them throughout the first 8 amendments. And then we have the 9th Amendment that says, look, we didn't cover them all, but we all understand what those rights, certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And those are all covered under the 9th Amendment. Okay? So we did 8 and 9. I hope you listened and understood, and or if you have any more questions, tune into the Zoom. And also on the Zoom today will be the 10th Amendment. I will be discussing the 10th Amendment and taking questions with that. What we are dealing with the COVID-19 virus right now has a lot to do with the 10th Amendment. So we're going to do the 10th Amendment in a minute, and I look forward to seeing you and sharing with you the 10th Amendment and what you guys are up to. So we'll see you in a little while, in just a few minutes after watching this Zoom, and we'll look forward to seeing you.